Hey everyone, it's Nomad Flair here and welcome back to another tech review video. I've owned the DualSense Edge now for around 4 months and I've pretty much used it every single day, and therefore I'm making this video to update you as to whether this latest innovative controller from Sony is worth your money or not. In this video we'll dive deep into the features, the ergonomic design and performance to give you a comprehensive review, so strap in everyone and let's get started. So firstly, we'll start off with what's included in the box. The purchase will include this white PlayStation hard shell case, which features the PlayStation logo at the front, alongside other icons that can be found on the sides and on the zippers. I really like the look and feel of this case, and I also feel very confident that my controller alongside the accessories are protected. The case isn't too big and it can pretty much fit all backpacks. The case also has a special feature to it where you can charge the controller in the case by removing the Velcro padding at the back and feeding through the charging cable. Nice and neat. When unzipping the case, you can see all the accessories neatly arranged. This includes 2 low dome caps, 2 high dome caps, alongside the standard caps which are already on the controller. Then we have 2 lever back buttons and 2 half dome back buttons, followed by the USB braided charging cable which will prevent tangling up, hence why it's braided. It's around 9 feet long, which equates to around 2.8 meters in length. And the last accessory is the connector housing. I will show you how each of these accessories work in a moment. To conclude, these are all the accessories that are included with the Pro controller, which to be honest I really like, considering the hefty price. Moving on to the controller, right off the bat guys, when you hold the DualSense Edge in your hand, you can tell right away that this is a premium controller due to its mass. It's slightly heavier than the official PlayStation 5 DualSense controller, but not that heavy. It retains the familiar layout of the DualSense controller, but with a few enhancements. That being the touchpad, which is now black instead of white, which has an array of PlayStation symbols scattered all across it in rows. The symbols are also on the L2 and R2 triggers at the back. The buttons and the D-pad are now black on the controller, which makes the controller more aesthetically pleasing to the eyes than the original in my opinion. The bottom centerpiece has a glossy black finish to it, which does tend to pick up fingerprints, annoyingly. Within this bottom piece are the addition of 2 new FN buttons known as the function buttons. This will allow you to customize your buttons and set up different customizable profiles for specific games that you play. I will be demonstrating how to do this later on. At the back of the controller, we have 2 insertions, RB and LB. This is for the remappable buttons we saw earlier, and at the top is the 3-level adjustable trigger stops. And lastly, Sony have added an enhanced grip on both handles to minimize the risk of the controller slipping out of your hands during those long, sweaty Warzone sessions. This has really helped me, to be honest. I've noticed this upgrade from day one of using this controller. Starting off with the remappable metal back buttons at the back of the controller, you have 2 options to choose from, either the lever or the half dome buttons. Or you can use both at the same time, it's entirely up to you. This addition has been a game changer for me because I used to own a back button attachment for my PlayStation 4 controller which I couldn't live without. And sadly there was no replacement when the PlayStation 5 controllers came out, until now of course. This addition has given me a competitive edge when playing Warzone, as I no longer need to remove my thumb off the right analog stick to press X or circle, which is of course the slide and jump. Instead I have mapped those buttons to the rear buttons at the back of the controller. By the way, you can pretty much map any buttons such as aiming, shooting, reloading, pinging, etc. This feature can be carried across other titles, not just Call of Duty of course. So, which have I been using the most? I've been using the lever buttons the most because they feel more natural to press than the dome. I think that the dome will be catered more towards individuals that have smaller hands and fingers, which I don't. Being able to adjust the depth of the triggers at the back of the controller has given me a noticeable improvement in speed and accuracy when aiming and firing in first-person shooters. There are 3 levels of adjustability. The top level gives you a full range of travel when pressing the triggers, which I personally don't use when playing first-person shooters. The second level has less travel, and the bottom level, which I use for Warzone, has the shortest travel, and therefore when pressed it provides me with an instant aiming and firing, thus increasing the probability of winning those close combat encounters. So I've been fortunate to have the option to change the triggers from adaptive or instant depending on which game I am playing. When playing racing car games, I tend to use adaptive, giving me a full range of travel. Moving on to customization and setting up profiles. When you plug in the controller into the PlayStation 5 for the first time, a quick setup guide will pop up taking you through the steps to set up your controller for optimal use. but you can choose to skip this. The guide will break down what the two function buttons do. Basically, when you hold either one of them down, you are presented with the customizable profile settings, where you can map either one of these 4 buttons to a specific profile. Say I have a Warzone profile, which has been mapped to the button X. For me to use this profile, I need to hold down the function button and press X at the same time to activate my Warzone profile. So how do we set this up? Firstly, hold down the function button and the options key at the same time. Here you can create 3 custom assigned profiles to either of these buttons. Select which button you want to map and then name your profile. After that, we can customize the button assignments, stick sensitivity, trigger dead zone, vibration intensity, and trigger effect intensity. So starting with customizing the back buttons, I used X and circle for Warzone, and I can also change and flip any of the buttons I want. There's so much flexibility. And to add to that, I can also disable buttons, which is awesome in some cases. However, there are 4 buttons that you cannot customize, which are the PlayStation button, the touchpad, the options button, and the create button, but they can be disabled. Now I can use this profile when playing Warzone. If I want to use the regular default profile, I just hold FN plus triangle, and it's as easy as that. Just to add to what I mentioned earlier, yes, you can create 3 assigned profiles, but you can make up to 30 profiles in total, which will be kept under the unassigned profiles, which can be added and switched at any time you want. Moving on to the third customizable bit of the controller, the thumbsticks. If you watch my previous videos, you know that I hate using the regular thumbsticks on the controller because I find them too low, which can lead to thumb fatigue. Therefore, I always use the Control Freaks attachments, which increase the height of the thumbsticks. Fortunately, with the DualSense Edge, I can remove the default caps and replace them with different size ones that I showed you earlier. And of course, I use the 2 high dome caps. To remove them, just pull upwards and they will pop off. And then to attach a different cap, just align them correctly and push downwards until you hear a click. To add to this, we can also replace the entire stick module if it was to become damaged. PlayStation are selling these for £20 or $20, so to remove the stick module, you want to head to the back of the controller and slide the release button to the left. I use my little pinky fingernail as it's impossible to do with any other finger. Once released, the glossy section at the front of the controller will detach, and then lift the lever to allow the stick module to slide off. To replace it, just place the module back in and lower the lever, and then place the glossy section back on top. Thankfully, I have not needed to replace this after 4 months of use. Diving back into the settings, we can adjust the stick sensitivity for the left and right individually. For the sensitivity curve option, there are several to choose from. Just read the information to see which curve will suit your gameplay best and select that. Then you can adjust the curve and dead zone also, which will give you an instant feel of how these changes will affect your stick movement there and then. We can then change the trigger dead zone by tweaking the input range to your preference. So ultimately you can adjust the depth of the triggers. With vibration, I always keep that off when playing first person shooters, but when playing campaign games, I make sure it's on strong because I want to feel that immersive experience when playing. And lastly, the trigger effect intensity. Moving on to the connector housing, this can be used to prevent the USB charging cable from slipping off. To be honest, I have never used this and I don't see a reason to, other than if you're a competitive online player where you want to reduce any latency and therefore want the cable to be attached at all times. To do this, just slip the cable into the housing and close it, and now the cable is fully locked in. Whilst we're on the topic of charging, we might as well discuss battery life. I was able to get around 8 to 9 hours of gameplay off a single charge, which isn't too bad. However, I would have preferred 20 hours considering the hefty price. And lastly, the price of course. This controller will cost you around £209 or $200. Yes, the controller is very expensive. It's almost half the price of the PlayStation 5 console alone, but putting the price aside, the controller is loaded with additional customizable features that the original DualSense does not have, and these features do noticeably improve your gameplay and overall gaming experience. It certainly has for me. Yes, there are a few drawbacks such as the price, the glossy panel at the front, and the 8 to 9 hours battery life, which to be honest, if you keep the cable plugged in, it wouldn't be an issue even if you play in your living room, because the cable is 9 feet long. Other than that, I think the DualSense Edge is an excellent premium controller, which is a must-have if you can afford it, of course. Just to add, I will be picking up the Victress Pro BFG, which is another customizable PlayStation 5 controller made by PlayStation, and it's slightly cheaper than the DualSense Edge. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that review that is coming in a week's time. It could actually replace my DualSense Edge, you never know. So guys, if you're planning to pick up this controller, I've left a link down below. If you reach the end of this video, leave a comment saying Pro for life so I know how many people lasted till the end of the video, and I'd appreciate if you could drop a like, and until next time everyone, take care.
It's not a game.